Okay, so just to kickstart this, can you raise your hands, people who in your businesses are talking to customers? Customer service, marketing, great. Okay, thank you. So this is about context. It's not about the political context. It's not about social context. It's about the context where you engage with your customers through your e-commerce platform. It's the user's context and how they use what you put in front of them out there. So one of the first questions that we ask any stakeholders when we start a project is why? Why are you building this e-commerce project? Why are you building this for your customers? What is the value that you're trying to get for your business? How is this going to make things better? And what is the value that you're trying to get for your people, your customer, people who you're trying to engage with? And obviously, there's various answers there. There might be answers that are deeply rooted in research and has a strong foundation. Or it might be answers that are, around a gut feel. We're just doing this because our competitors are doing this. We're just doing this because we don't want to fall behind. So there's various different answers to that question. Nonetheless, everyone wants that what they push out there, they want that to be a successful project, right? And in the whole decision-making process, there's a great saying that I like, and it says something like, if all we have is analytical data, let's base our decision on analytical data. If all we have is opinions, let's go with mine then. So, so it's going back to research, I suppose, and understanding who are you putting this technology, this system in front of, and what are you trying to get out of it. Sorry, I was clicking the wrong button here. So my name is Daniel Alb. I'm leading the UX team in Monsoon Consulting. And what we do on a daily basis is we're trying to understand human behavior, people's behavior, people interaction with technology. And we're trying to design systems that are easy to use and systems that are going to drive value for customers, for people. And I like to, usually I like to start my presentations with a quote from people that are smarter than me. And it's usually because I like to look smart when I'm putting a smart quote in front of people, but it's also because smart people sometimes come up with some really, really smart things, right? And this is sometimes, right? It's not all the time. But I'm glad you picked up on that. So this is kind of building on what David was saying there before, and it's kind of taking it a step further. And it's a quote from a report that Walker put out. And it's saying something like, customer experience will overtake price and product as key brand differentiators by 2020. And this is massive, right? Because it means that your customers are willing to not only look at the offering that you have and change maybe the portfolio of products that they buy because of the customer experience that you're putting out there, but they're always or almost willing to pay more for it because you give them a better experience, right? And I think this is absolutely massive. They care so much about the interaction that they have with you and the experience that you put in front of them that they're willing to maybe sacrifice price and go and put a dent into their profits just to get that good experience with your product. So if we're looking at the larger context, and again, building on what David was saying earlier, we know that consumer technology commoditizes the user experience. And what it does is it influences the perception, people's perception on technology. It creates a mental model, it creates an expectation in people's heads that technology is going to work in a certain way. The fact that you have an entire world of knowledge at your fingertip on your phone, the fact that you can access that in a certain way, creates in people's minds patterns that if you want to be successful in B2B, you need to follow. And let's go through a quick exercise here, right? It'll be easy, I promise. So, can you recognize the brand? Can you say it? Google, right? So Google is synonym with search. So what this translates into is that if you're going to put a search function on your website or on your platform, it better work as well as Google, because you're not measuring against a competitor, right? You're not measuring with another website that has a crappy search functionality. You're measuring with this. This is setting people expectation. That's the bar that you're trying to live up to. Facebook, right? It's easy enough. Thank you. Thank you. That's fine. So if you're building content for people and you're pushing out there, if you have a news feed, if you're publishing news, this is who you're competing against. Images, product images is a huge problem in B2B, right? Anyone recognize this? Instagram, right? So Instagram creates such a beautiful experience for people to interact with images and consume images that the expectation it creates in people's minds is very, very high. If you're going to have poor product images, it's just going to affect the experience that people will have with your platform. I said, this is B2B, right? They just want to buy a meter of timber. This is who you're competing against, right? There's no way around it. Okay, so let's dive into the context bit now. When people are engaging with your technology, your platform, they have a certain expectation, which is kind of driven by the consumer technology, by the consumer products. At the same time, people's lives are not linear and they're not simple. They're complicated, right? Humans do a lot of things on a daily basis. They're not going from point A to point B on a simple journey that you designed for them. They're going from point A to point B by going through the entire alphabet, right? It's a complicated journey. People are going to look and interact with your platform in various different ways and in various different contexts. Take, for example, someone who wakes up in the morning and picks up the phone and does something on that phone, right? It's 6 o'clock, he's very sleepy, or she's very sleepy, goes make a coffee, but does something on the piece of technology that they have there. Or let's go into kind of primary context, right? There's someone comes up, late at night after working on a radiator, right? So there's a piece of that is missing there. They need to find it quickly because they need it the next morning because they don't want a bottleneck in their day, right? So how quickly can they interact with that? Now that's not easy. Maybe it's their home, maybe it's their kids around, maybe they have to put dinner on the table, and so on and so forth. People's lives are complicated, and the way they interact with your products is not going to be linear, and it's not going to be, let's say, 9 to 5 in an office sitting down. It's going to be a lot more than that. Understanding that context and designing for that context is going to put success into what you're building. So key things. If you're popping into our office, just by curiosity, you're going to see something like that, right? So you're going to see 27-inch screens, high resolution, latest technology, people popping out the latest phones. Everything's exquisite, everything's shiny. It's brilliant. That's how, I'm telling you, if you pop in our office, that's how we design experiences, right? Because it's an experience that our company designed for us, right? That's our experience. We need to enjoy it. So that's how we design it. Now, the way people are actually going to use it might be this, right? They're probably in a corner on a very old machine with a really, really low resolution screen. And probably they're using something like that because that's the phone that the business gave them. And that's their business phone, right? That's not even connected to the internet. I don't know. It just looked, I just wanted it to look really, really old and crappy, right? The point I'm trying to make here is that if you're not understanding this context, people are not going to be able to use the technology that we're building for that context. So what we did internally, for example, was to buy a couple of these things, right? Or look through our old storage and bring out some of these things because they were relevant for our customers. Understanding how they're going to use it is going to make the design of it successful. Now, let's look at behavior, right? Behavior is really important. How people are going to perceive what they're doing is really important. So, in a consumer environment, the buyer is the decision maker. I want to buy a pair of pants. I'm going to go online and research it. I'm going to buy it, right? I make the decision for myself, and I'm going through the journey, the buying journey. In a B2B context, the decision maker is not always the buyer. It could be the buyer, but it's not always that case. So that's really important to understand. And going back to the example that Brymek gave us, right? You might have someone that is working on site somewhere that needs to place an order through the system, but they're not going to approve the order. They're probably not going to even see the prices, but they need to engage with the system and conduct their business, right? So you don't want them to scribble something on a piece of paper. What you want is to pick up their phone, find something, and say, I need this piece by tomorrow. I need this item by tomorrow morning, right? So this is really important to understand because the journey that we're going to replicate for the customers is going to be based on really understanding these facts. In a consumer environment, I want to buy because I want to buy. It's something that I want to do. While here we have people's jobs, right? Their livelihoods depend on this decision. It's a need. They have to buy it. They buy because they have to. Now, you might say, well, if they have to, they'll engage with my platform anyway, right? Because they have to. They probably will, and then on the side look for alternative solutions to move on from you because it's too clunky and it doesn't align with the expectation that they have in their minds. This have to complete a transaction in B2B is really important because you have various different contexts, and we've seen people in the construction context. But then you have people that are, let's say, in a medical environment, right? That are working in a hospital, and what they do really impacts people's health and people's lives. So really diving into that research and understanding the impact of what you're putting out there is crucial for the success of your platform. Consumer, maybe they buy once in a while. In a B2B environment, it's a constant interaction with that platform. If there's the smallest pain point in their journey, it's going to occur again and again and again on a daily basis. It's going to be annoying. Time to spare, I'll do it, on my commute or whatever. When I have time, it's under time pressure. It's under huge time pressure here because you need to come back to it tomorrow morning maybe and continue what you have to do. I'll think about it. I can add it to the basket and keep it there for days. I have to get things done. I have to get things done. I have to get it now. Understanding the difference between the mindset that you have in a consumer environment versus what you have in the B2B environment is really important to recreate an experience that is going to drive success for your platform. So, why design for context? And the first one is eliminate workarounds. I've seen it too many times now. When people engage with a system that doesn't work right, they will find ways to patch it. And the way they will patch it is by putting a dent into their time. They'll create workarounds that will work for them. So, for example, if you have someone that engages with a platform that doesn't do what they need to, they'll probably have a phone trail around it. Thank you. They'll probably have a paper trail around it. They'll probably have a fax trail around it, right? I'm just going to send a fax in because I have no patience for this platform, right? I'm just going to pick up the phone and put the order through. And sometimes it's really hard to kind of take that workaround away from what people are doing because it's how they do things, how they've done things for a long time and they're used to it. But you won't catch this unless you really go and understand how users or your customers are working with the system that you have in place. The second one is platform adoption. I think I'm totally against the case of let's build it and they will come, they will buy, right? You can't really think that way because there's so many options these days that nothing guarantees that people are going to come and use your platform. So really understanding and designing for use, for their context, is going to increase how they interact with the engagement, I suppose, with your platform. And the last one is probably the biggest one as well, right? It's cater for behavior change. One of the hardest things in any digital transformation project is to understand mental models and to understand how people think. And we don't have really time to dive into it now, but essentially, in our minds, in our heads, there's two different systems that act in parallel. There's one system that likes to put a lot of thought into what they do. It's the rational, right? So it's bringing in the arguments, it's constructing a way of doing things, and then habit takes over, right? And habit just does things like this. And people are habit creatures. We like to do things quicker without a lot of mental effort, right? So, and sometimes what you'll see is that you put in front of people a solution that is so easy and it's breezy and it's nice and it's engaging and everything, and they don't use it. They want to use the old thing that they have. Why is that? Why can't they see that, well, this new thing, it's so much better and does so much more and helps them be more efficient and so on and so forth? It's the habit that kind of keeps them back. It's the fact that, I've done things like this for the past 10 years and I don't really want to change. If you're not going to design for their context, and again, going back to Brian's case study, if you're not going to if you're not going to replicate that journey for them and maybe try to slowly transform the way they engage with you, it's going to be very hard for them to just suddenly don't do phone orders or don't do don't do fax anymore. So the fun part, case studies. Let's look at some real stories here, right? So this is a project, a really fun project, complex as well, that we built with Uniphar, right? And it was really interesting to see, going back to the users, it was really interesting to see how they engage with the platform. And you have various different user groups, right? When you're designing for a context in a B2B environment, you're not going to deal with what works for most people most of the time. You can't really rely on that. It's probably what works for most people in a particular user group most of the time. And you probably have multiple user groups. So you need to understand what to design, what to put in place, what to build for each individual user group, right? As much as you can. So in this case, it was really interesting to observe the behavior of pharmacists who were part of a user group versus hospital pharmacists, which was a different user group. And the context of how they work and how they interact with the platform is totally different. So the pharmacist in a pharmacy engages with a customer. They don't really have a lot of storage space. So what they do is, each time a customer comes in and buys something, some medication, they automatically go back to the system, search for the product, and reorder it on the spot. That means that in a day, you might have 10, 15, 20 orders from the same pharmacist, right? Because they're not going to scribble it down on a piece of paper and then forget about it. They want to make sure that they don't run out on that particular medication. So what you need to put in place for them is a really, really slick search functionality, right? So they can go to the system, bang on a few keys, and then a straight checkout process that will not put in their way any pain points, right? So they need to do that in a couple of minutes, gone, away they go, serve the other customer, right? And they might do this under pressure with, talking to someone, and it's a lot of noise around them, and it's someone kind of asking, oh, can I do this? And someone asking, can I do that? And they're on their feet all day long, and they need to do it fast, right? Really important to understand the context. Now, the other bit that we've seen here with these guys, and we haven't seen it, right, until we went to their place of work and tried to understand how they engage with things, is that they're using this square little monitors with a really, really low resolution. And we designed for this 27-inch thing that has all the information that you need in a line item, right? And that everything was squashed on the screen, and there were information kind of missing from the item lines. And we had to go back and adjust the experience for these guys that were using these screens, right? So there's a lot of insights that you get from observing your customers that you need to respond to be able to really cater for their need. In a different context here, you have the hospital pharmacist who works off a fixed list of products, right? The hospital has an agreement with the supplier. You will only buy these things from us. And their order is not going to be one line, one item order. It's going to be probably 50, 100, 150 at one time. Now, they're not going to place that order, several times a day. They're probably going to collect everything that they need and then have this long list and then put it through. Now, imagine someone in a hospital pharmacy banging in keys for 100 items through a search bar and trying to get that through. It would just take a lot of time, and they'd be really, really annoyed with it. So what we put in place for them are lists of products that are dedicated to them, right? So you have a list of products, you go back to your list, you tick the boxes, and then you move on, right? really important to cater for that. So just a few kind of features that we built for them. So favorites list for easy purchasing here. Really strong search functionality on the other side. Reorder, the ability to just tick a few boxes, say, I want this again. And then bundle multiple orders on top of orders, right? So I don't want 10 deliveries tomorrow with my 10 products. I just want one delivery with the 10 products that I put through in 10 different orders, essentially. Self-service was an important one as well, because the pharmacists are essentially spreadsheet warriors. They live in their spreadsheets. So they wanted the ability to see their accounts and see where they're at all the time. So really successful kind of features there, but all based on understanding how these people are going to interact and use the platform. Okay, another one. Really fun one as well, because we got to go into restaurants and talk to chefs, and they're exciting people. Okay, so in this case, you have probably three kind of major user groups. So you have the small cafes where you have a super, super busy chef, and they'll do everything. They'll do the ordering, they'll do the menus, they'll prepare the food, they'll serve the food, they'll do everything. They're super busy. And then maybe in a moment of pause, after, let's say, the lunch rush hours passed, they'll look around in their kitchen and see what's missing, pick up the phone, and straight to order. I want this, 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 and this, right? Now, really important to understand for these guys that the menu is not really changing on a daily basis. So it's not going to be carpaccio today and ham and cheese sandwich tomorrow. It's going to be the same menu for probably an entire season. So maybe changes twice a year, slightly, maybe add something seasonal, but their main menu is not going to be very different. So they want to be able to order from preset lists because it's going to be the same things. They probably know from memory the product items or the product codes. But for these guys, time is of the essence, right? So they just pick up the phone and bark the order through, and that's it. That's what they want to do. Now, when you want to push them from that takes literally 30 seconds, into take your phone or go into an office, open up your computer, input your order, or scribble something down on lists and then go and do that. It's an entire different flow that it's not really for a cafe chef. So what you need to do there is to balance some of the benefits that they get through an online ordering portal with maybe the speed that they need to have. So you need to have something that is really, really quick to interact with, and then you need to have the ability to kind of serve them fast. Now, on the other side, you have the restaurant chef that will need to collect their items. So it's probably the end of the day when they go into their back room and see exactly what's missing, collect sheets of items, and then pass them to a purchasing manager, right? They probably won't do it themselves, or if they do it themselves, then they'll go to their office where they have their computer and put it through. And there's other kind of red tape, internal kind of processes that they need to go through as well, because maybe they need approval or so on and so forth. So entire different context where you don't really have the speed, but you have the pressure of getting something for tomorrow for probably. Again, dealing with lists, so on and so forth. On the other side, you might have the chefs or the cafes that are on low margin. They're working with cash only. How do you serve that? So what Palace Foods did, for example, put in place a click and collect system to help or to address this kind of lower end of their market. Speeding through now. Okay, so construction. You have your plumber that is under your sink there, figures out the piece that is missing, wants to take a picture of it or to find it quickly on his phone and then send it through. He also wants that piece delivered to that exact location, right? Because he needs to come back tomorrow and replace it for you. He doesn't want to go on Google Maps and try to figure out where that is. He just wants to click a button, essentially, and say, deliver it here, I'll be here tomorrow, and install it. It needs to be quick and easy, but really important for them is easy product recognition, because they might see 20 different jobs in a week, 30 different jobs in a week, and it's very, very separate, right? It's not the same product. It's going to be a different product every time. On the other side, you probably have a huge construction site with an entire kind of workflow that people need to go through to be able to purchase. And I think kind of the Bryma case study kind of addresses this. So I'm not going to repeat that. But essentially, you have one single platform that's going to cater for both contexts. Really important, though, to do the research to understand how people are going to work with it, because it's not going to apply to both cases every single time. So I'll jump into the conclusion now. Key piece, understand customer behavior and how they're going to engage with your platform. What is their context? And what are the pressures, the life pressures around them? Create efficiency. Understanding the fact that this is a B2B context where people have to do something as opposed to want to do something is really key. So as long as you manage to keep them efficient or increase the efficiency of their workload, this is going to be a successful project for them. Improve processes. This is going back to the behavior change and to the fact that people are accustomed to do things in a certain way. And you need to show them the benefits of doing things in a different way and then help them along to be able to really drive the efficiency. Again, I mentioned the behavior change there, and then platform adoption is, I suppose, the cherry on the cake there, right? Platform adoption is what you get when you go through all the other points. And with that, I thank you for your time.